Aloha and welcome to show number 13. We talk with a friend of mine, Jon Jokiel, a very fast runner. And he's a national park ranger in the Big Island here. He's an interpretive ranger. And he was also doing that on Alcatraz, so he had a couple of interesting stories there. He was a participant in the 2013 Boston Marathon. He finished about an hour and a half before the bombings, but he tells his story on that. And we hope you please do stay safe and enjoy. Oh, hi. We have Jon Jokiel here. Happy Aloha Friday, Jon. How are you?
Aloha, Joe. I'm doing pretty well.
How's the weather? You're in Palisades, right? You're up in Kona Town. Yep.
Yeah, just north of Palisades, past Matsuyama's by about a mile or so. Up in the wet area of Kona. A lot of rain last couple of weeks. Every afternoon when I'm trying to do some work around the house is when it starts raining.
That's right. You've been doing lanai work, if I remember now correctly.
Yes, 1,000-foot deck. It's going to take me probably 3 years when I finish. Well, I'm on 2 now, but I'm hopeful. I'm on railings, so very slow, but it's very solid, and I'm very happy with my progress. Been learning a lot, so it's been a great project.
Good. Well, we can talk about those skills too, but you have many other skills, certainly as a runner and as one of our national park people. So, but first of all, I totally spaced it out that you're actually raised. Were you raised over in Honolulu?
Yes, I was. Kaneohe on the windward side. My family moved to Oahu in 1968. I was 4 years old, and my dad was a high school teacher in Illinois, in Evanston, Illinois, and he got a grant to do some work, marine biology, and he actually started part of the marine lab at the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology, place called Coconut Island out in Kaneohe Bay. So spent my childhood growing up on surfboards and diving, and it was just the most amazing childhood and very fond memories.
I didn't realize your family was from Evanston, because Gordon Tech High School in Chicago is where I went to high school.
There you go. Yeah, my parents went to Northwestern, and yeah, so all my family's there. We were sort of the wild family that decided to move to the islands in 1968. There wasn't a lot here, and I think everybody thought we were crazy, but it worked out.
Well, I mean, that's still in doubt. I mean, Jon.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So you went to you were in Kaneohe and stuff. So where'd you go to high school?
Went to Kalaheo High School. Yep. So 1983. That seems like a long time ago. Yeah. So my dad's passed, but the house is still there. My stepmom lives there, and I try to go back and visit whenever I can. And it's been hard now, but yeah, it's a different place. Kaneohe and Kailua, where I spent most of my time, is not what it was growing up. That's for sure. Just like anywhere, I guess.
Well, I have fond memories because I used to do like the Dick Evans and the Honolulu Century bike ride, and being
Yep.
able to get to those areas of Oahu that, if you live in Honolulu, there are a lot of people will never get to those neighborhoods.
Yeah, I have good memories of being a runner in the 80s and just all the races up there. I remember they had the Koli Koli Pass race and the Wahiwa Pineapple Run, and just some really unique events. And of course the Great Aloha Run, which I guess was a little bit later, which I did last year, which was a lot of fun. I always enjoy that race. And just so many small races. Mid-pack road runners would just have go on the weekend, go out and do a race somewhere. And, there wasn't really triathlons or biathlons. Everybody ran in those days. I don't think I remember any events like that. Everybody ran. That was the in thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was pickup races, hashier kind of races that, weren't t-shirts. What were t-shirts? Let alone medals.
Right. Right, and the t-shirts were cotton. I loved them. Not nowadays.
Oh,
I
God,
do so miss the cotton t-shirts. They're going away.
I can't stand cotton ones. So did you do track and stuff in high school?
Yeah, I ran track at Kalaheo, and that was quite an experience. We didn't have a very motivated team. My coach, his name was Mr. Fuddy, and he was the,
What was
so there's
it
all
again?
kinds of jokes. His name was Mr. Fuddy, Mr. Lewis
Mr.
Fuddy.
Fuddy.
Wonderful man, wonderful man. But he was also the football coach, or assistant football coach. So he didn't know a whole lot about running. He did his best. He had a very a very good runner by the name of Steve Jeunesse, and the guy was just a natural gifted athlete. And so Fuddy had his workouts, and he'd always give them to me, and say, "Here, do this." And I said, "I'm not Steve Jeunesse," and I did well, but most of the people on my team were there to party. So sometimes the workouts were, okay, everybody follow John. And I'm like, and people would show up hungover on cross-country day. And so it was quite an experience. I really enjoyed it. And then I did track. I did the mile and the 2 mile, and I did pretty well in that. And really enjoyed the long distance, especially for track. And in fact, that's how I kind of got my start is I had a good friend that this was in 1980 where we were freshmen. And he's like, "Well, I'm going to go out for the track team. You want to come along?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure, I got nothing else to do. Let's check this out." So we were in the field, and then the coach sort of split everybody up and said, "Go over here if you want to do sprint and those kind of, the 100-yard, or go over on this side. If you want to do long distance, go over to this side." So my friend decided, "Oh, let's go over to the long distance side." So I said, "Oh, I'll come with you and check it out." So we ended up running, I don't know what it was, 2 miles and stuff. And I loved it. I thought, wow, this is great. I'm going to, keep doing this. So that really was the hook.
It wasn't punishment at the time.
No, it was fun. I've always been active. I never was a runner until then. I mean, I was surfing and growing up in Hawaii. I just loved being active. But I really found my thing when I was out there running. I got, wow, this is really, really nice. I'm really enjoying this.
Can you remember what the first, you said that you guys did the long run, which was 2 miles. But do you remember the first long, like 10K maybe that you did, or half marathon?
Gosh, I do remember a couple 10Ks, no real fond memories, but the funny one was, fondest memory I had, and I really think this solidified it for me, was my first marathon, which was shortly after I started running, didn't have much training, didn't know anything about it. And again, this friend that I had known, we both decided, hey, let's go do this, do the Honolulu Marathon. And I didn't know anything. I had no idea. I never ran that far in my life. And I ended up maybe running 10 or 15 miles beforehand. So the way we did it is his brother worked at McDonald's as a manager. And I was kind of in awe that and he had his own apartment in Waikiki. So I thought, boy, this guy is just, he's great. He's like, so we stayed at his apartment. We stayed up till about 1 a.m. walking around Waikiki, which in itself was a really bad idea. Didn't get our sleep. And then I finished in like 4 hours. I had a great race. It was hard. My friend ended up collapsing at 20 miles, and they had to take him, put some IVs in him, and he had a pretty hard day. But I remember that race being very significant. That, wow, I did it. I did a marathon, and a pretty respectable time for my first one too. So that really was the one race I really remember, my first longer race for sure.
So you didn't finish it. Like, I have a lot of friends that I've been privileged to be at the finish line when they finished, and it's their first marathon. A lot of our friends have made one particular comment when they finish their first, and it's usually, "I'm never doing that again."
No, I didn't have that for that race. I certainly have it for other races, but not that one. I was just so high off the experience that I thought, this is it. This is what I'm going to be doing.
Now, your dad, he was a marine biologist doing studies over in Kaneohe, right?
Yep.
And did he work, I know they had dolphins there because I was actually over at Koala Basin at the time. Koala Basin was part of UH2, where they had the Keakamai and Phoenix, and then they got brought in Hiapo and Ukelele. as doing research, cognition studies. Was he doing the same thing?
He was a coral reef biologist and pretty well known in his field. He did a lot of work with studying coral reefs, and I really think he predicted a lot of the stuff that's happening now, climate change and, the warming of the oceans. And he did a lot of really pioneering work. And one of the things he's really well known for is late 60s, he and a group of other scientists got the sewer outfall that was going into Kaneohe Bay. Kaneohe Bay was really bad in those days. They used to just pump it right in there. He was very instrumental in that. He did a lot of studies and a lot of scientific papers you see now. There, his name is on there. He's got a pretty amazing team of people that have carried on some of his work. He's got the Marine Lab. Part of the Marine Lab is named after him, and that's really satisfying to see a lot of that work on climate change and all that stuff really, really going forward with a lot of his people.
Yeah, we had, I can remember, what was it, last year, probably 2 years ago, where the reefs were really taking a hit here. I mean, I think it was because, well, climate change, warmer weather, warmer water and stuff. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was 2018. It was a couple of years ago, and virtually 70–80% of the reefs on some areas were killed. I know in front of the park, about 80 national park I work at, about 80% of the reefs have died. They've not come back. So it just depends on the area. So that was a really bad bleaching event, for sure. Yeah.
Bummer. So you went to college. You were at UH, yeah?
Yeah, I went to University of Hawaii and got my undergraduate there. And then moved to the mainland, spent about 10 years in the Northwest Seattle area. A lot of other things. Worked at a health food chain for a while at a co-op, and that was really fun. And did a lot of Northwest activities. Went out and did mountain climbing. Worked at REI for a while too. That was a lot of fun.
Oh.
Climbed Mount Rainier a bunch of times. Just really enjoyed the Pacific Northwest and the mountains, and that whole scene up there is a pretty amazing place, especially in the summers. The summers are very, very beautiful up there. Winters are a little dark and dreary. Didn't matter so much as being a runner. I was always out there and running, even the worst day. Kind of enjoyed the rain and the wind. Sometimes that's kind of fun to run in. It's kind of just another thing to you come in, take a warm shower, have some hot coffee. So there were some challenges, but I think I enjoyed living up there too.
Oh, so you were working at health food stores. Was that did that help lead to your transition? And I tease you about it sometimes mercilessly about being a non-steak eater, shall we say?
Yeah, I think it was set up before that. I mean, it was actually because of my dad. He really sort of pointed out to me that, he's a real environmentalist. And he says, if you're eating meat, then you go to these scientific conferences, and that it was a steak dinner, and he wouldn't hold back about that. He says, well, we're going to save the planet. What are you doing eating that? And he was just pretty blunt about it. So he did kind of get my thoughts about it. And I started doing some investigating and read, John Robbins' Diet for a New Planet was the big book in those days. Just did some research, and then I kind of found it really worked. I always, I didn't have health problems, but I think when I ran, it just didn't suit me. And I don't know what it was, but as soon as I switched, and it took me a while to get off, I started with beef and then took chicken. And really, it's only been in the last 5 years I've gone completely vegan. But it was a definite transition to get there. But I find it's the ideal diet. It really gives me energy. And there's a myth that, how do you get your protein, which is total bunk, because we get enough protein.
How do you get your protein, John?
Don't ask that question. No, I'm fine. There's protein in everything, beans, rice. The problem is we get too much protein in our diet. That's why you have heart disease and diabetes. You can look this up, and it's a fact. So it's kind of interesting, you can help save the planet. You can be compassionate and also get better health. improve your endurance. I think it does. I think there's definitely something about, you know, eating plant-based, and you know, I'm 55 and I still feel like 30, not every day, but you know, I can go out there and keep up. You know, so I think it's, not to get political here, I don't think it's political, it's environmental and it's for your health. So yeah.
No, that's good. There was somebody who had posted on Twitter or something about how they felt after a hard run, they felt like they were, you know, in their 70s, you know, even though normally they feel like they're 26. And
Yeah.
I kind of reversed it, and I said, geez, I don't know. Pretty much a lot of time I feel like I'm 72, which I am, except after a hard run, I feel like I'm 26 after the hard run.
Yeah. Yeah. The adrenalines and the endorphins and the feel good. You have the good feelings for sure. That's, yeah.
Did you, I forgot to ask, do you have any brothers, sisters floating around?
Yeah, I have two brothers, both younger than me. One's on Maui, the other is over on Oahu, and they're both adopted. So I have a Filipino brother and a Hawaiian brother, and I grew up with them. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
My parents were very forward thinking, and those days they, my brother Jordan, we adopted when he was an infant in Chicago and brought him to Hawaii. And then my other brother Jason was through foster care, and we adopted him when he was about 5. So,
oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
That's so lucky to grow up in a family like that.
Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah, it was wonderful having 2 brothers. I was the oldest, and now my little brother is he's kind of a scary looking guy. He's a big guy, and he's my bodyguard. If I ever need anybody to help me out, it's my little brother. Yeah.
Well, I have a friend
He's a straight guy.
I have a friend back in Aspen, where I spent a lot of years and stuff. And Henry's son Brigard is kind of a very big dude. And but I knew Brigard since he was like 5 years old. And there were situations where I'd be with some friends and they go, hey, look at that guy over there. Wow, he's pretty scary looking. And I'd walk up to Brigard and just wave my finger in front of him. And they go, Joe, what are you doing? No, he's
Yeah.
I mean, do they participate? Do they surf? I would assume that they're both surfers too.
Yeah, my brother Jordan does. That's his thing. He does a lot of longboarding and paddle boarding, and yeah, he's really connected to the ocean. My other brother, not so much. He works all the time now. He's a plumber, so he's a pretty busy guy. But he gets out and he weightlifts and boxes and does those kind of things.
Yeah. That sounds like, which is part of the reason I'm here, is because we live in a diverse society here. I'd rather live
yes, absolutely
here than a bubble that too many people I think live in their bubbles. So you're in college, you graduate, you go to the mainland, and you get your experiences there. How did you end up being in the National Park Service? How did that happen?
Well, I was getting a little tired of my job. It changed a bit, and it was getting to be more like a job. And the stores that I worked at in the Seattle area were real community-based. Get to know everybody. The whole climate change. We had a guy from Safeway come in, and he did some good things financially, very savvy, but he really changed the attitude. So I decided, this isn't for me. I'm just stocking shelves. I need to change my career. So I looked around for different things. I thought maybe I could be a physical therapist and experiment a little bit. I thought, well, that's going to take, my background is a liberal studies degree, and I didn't really have the whole science background. I thought that's going to take a lot of schooling. So just one day, my wife and I were looking online, and there was an internship at Golden Gate National Recreation Area. And I was going to go through it. She said, no, just apply. It's an internship. I was searching. Forgot about it. Just totally forgot about it. And a couple months later, I got a call about they have it's basically a volunteer position in San Francisco. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to leave my job to go live in San Francisco for free. Well, the payment really was housing. We got to live, my wife and I got to live in the Presidio. So they have an apartment building there, which was okay. But and then she got a job too. Her background's education, so they wanted to hire her. So we got an old VW van, and we packed it up with the cat and moved to San Francisco. Dropped the cat off in LA at her sister's, and loved it. It was 9 months. I got to work on Alcatraz doing tours, which was really an amazing place.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. It was just go out on the first boat with the Rangers, and I would do dock announcements. People get off the boat and you tell them to go up to the cell house and do programs. Talk about the escape of 1962, slam people in jail cells all day. That I could do that all day. People loved it. It was the strangest thing. It was like, they couldn't get enough of it. And it was just fun. It was like, working at Disneyland, and I just loved it. And then learning about, how to give a good program. It's called interpretation. It's not like translating, but I have a master's in it. There's a whole career about how to talk to visitors. And it isn't just talking facts and here it is. It's involving others in their own experience when they come to the park. So you're relating things that they see to their own experience, which makes it if you can do it right, it makes it very impactful. It's challenging. You don't always get it, but when you do, it's pretty cool. It can be pretty meaningful especially when you hear people talking about it. The one thing that I remember, I was after work in San Francisco, I was walking down the street and there was a restaurant, and I just hear somebody slamming on the window, and I look next. I look next to me, and there's a young man with his family, and he's going, "That's the guy. That's the guy. He's the guy that was on Alcatraz." And I was like, "Hi," I just kept walking, but I just felt like that was strange.
Oh, well, you were a star. I mean,
I was a star. I mean, I didn't think so, but I guess he really enjoyed it. And
did you get any of the customers when you locked them in a cell? Did they was there anybody who kind of went, "Yeah, this brings back memories"?
Well, no, this is interesting. I would do tours, and this would happen quite frequently. You'd have guards from the local prison, San Quentin, come on, they're on their vacation to come out to Alcatraz. And I would let them lead the tour because it was so interesting. I asked them, they showed them the jail cells, and these jail cells are from the 60s. And I said, "Well, what's it like now?" And they look around and said, "Not much different." They had different procedures. They said they look pretty much like this now. And those guys were scary. Some of those guys, I was like, boy, there's a fine line between a prison guard and an inmate, because these guys were very scary. And they go on vacation to a prison. I guess maybe that's what you do if that's your trade. But those are very interesting, to have those guys lead the tour.
Yeah, I think you brought out a couple of things that I think are very right on as far as letting people tell their stories. If you're a good enough storyteller that you can help bring them out and tell their stories are incredible. I mean,
yep.
That's why I'm doing this thing. Is like I'm blown away by the stuff that I'm hearing from people that I've known. Well, you know how it is at a race. We get to see each other maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to go to the bathroom and get in line, and there's no time to tell me about your life and what you did for a career. It's exactly. So yeah, this is nice, Joe, that you get to talk to people and find out behind the scenes. And yeah.
Well, you guys give me a crick in my neck at Honolulu every year, because as I'm running out on Keaneaniole, you guys are cruising back, and I always have to look right to see, oh, there's John. I can wave at John.
Yeah, that's funny. I always see people. I never think I am. Usually they see me, but I'm always surprised when somebody's in the crowd going out to Waikiki says something. So it's pretty cool. 25,000 runners.
Did you met your wife on the mainland, or is she from here?
Yeah, we met in Seattle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. And so you're in Alcatraz, doing tours and helping people, getting people to relate to it. What eventually brought you back to Hawaii?
Well, a couple more steps. I didn't come directly from Alcatraz. I was since we lived in Seattle, I knew the area, and I actually have a childhood friend who is a ranger on Mount Rainier, and I was kind of started networking with him, looking for my next job, um, and one day, I applied for this job at Mount Rainier, and then one day I got a phone call, and basically it was the person doing the hiring, the chief of interpretation. She said, she asked me, what side of the park do you want to work on? No interview. It was, I know what happened, but it was like, I was like, wait a minute, I got to call you back. I was in shock. I said, aren't you going to interview me? She said, no. I was like, okay. So I got to Mount Rainier, and I worked there for 2 summers. And then I came to Kona in between. I worked a seasonal at Kolokohonoko'au. And then after the second season of Mount Rainier, I got what's called a term position. Then I had a couple different permanent jobs. And then I went and got my master's degree. And then I got sort of a management position. And I've been there 15 years now. So, my route was fairly fast for me. A lot of park rangers, they only have summer employment and they're still struggling. I know one guy who's been in the service as long as I have, and he lives out of his camper and in the winter months, and he struggles to get seasonal jobs. So I was really lucky. I think going back to school, going to a small park where I could do a lot. In those days, there wasn't a lot happening. I was able to kind of push things forward, and I was at the right place at the right time. That certainly helped. A lot of hard work too to get there. So I've just been very, very grateful with my career that I've been able to do what I have been, and very fortunate to work with great people and have a lot of fun. That's my job. I go out and talk to people about Hawaii, and I've got other things, but I certainly enjoy my job up just about every day.
So hearkening back to, it is funny thinking back to remember how long some of this stuff was happening. Back when Halemaumau first started to go off. I mean,
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit how, from your end, being in the park, how things were going for you? I mean, I know I can say how it was from our end, people that were living on the island, but from your end, how stressful was that?
Well, I wasn't on the front line. I do have some colleagues over at Hawaii Volcanoes who are just going through hell. It was just a really, really hard time for them. Sort of isolated being over here in Kona, and we were dealing with VOG, and we were telling visitors about the situation as much as we knew. So I felt pretty blessed. It wasn't too bad for us over here. I do know some folks over there that has had a rough time. Certainly glad that the volcano shut down. I mean, visitors come and they still ask, is there anywhere I can see flowing lava? And I say, no, and we love it. And they look at me strange. I said, well, we live here and we've had it for 20 or more years. So we're glad we can breathe.
Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, the thing I remember most was a lot of people would move here in the interim after the volcano went off. And for our listeners and viewers and stuff, we had a plume suddenly appear. Not suddenly, but, it came up, and it really affected our air quality. And there were a lot of years where you would never really see a sunset that went into the ocean. There was always a layer of volcanic, bog around a lot. And I have asthma, so it was affecting me and everything. But there were people that came here and they go, oh, the sunset's so beautiful. And we'd go, nah, you don't understand.
Yeah.
And once, things, Madame Pele was nice to us. What was it, 2 years ago now?
That it's been off? Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, almost. This summer will be 2 years.
Yeah, and then suddenly now we have the beautiful sunsets that go right into the ocean. The air quality is just super great. I know some of the videos that came out during that time were mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Just mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, and the overpriced helicopter flights you couldn't get on a flight for, it was, did you get to go up in a helicopter? Do you get to do that?
No, my friend Toshi, he works over at Blue Hawaii, And
Yeah.
you know, he'd offered a few times and everything, but I was, you know, I was always too busy and stuff. I did do the many times actually drive out and hike out to the ocean, you know, and watch the
Yeah.
lava flow in, you know, and it was always hilarious because you would think, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this. We're going to go out, hike the lava, and then we're going to watch the sunset, you know, in the ocean, and then we can see the lava on the mountain. And then it's like, well, crap, we got to hike back now.
Yeah. Well, there's a ranger tip. When that was going on, I always tell people go early in the morning. Usually got to stay in the area, but go in when it's dark at 4 a.m. You can take your time getting out, bring a flashlight, but the sun's coming up. Nobody's out there. The times there was 1 or 2 cars. So that was the way to do it. And I got a funny story. A friend of mine, this was way before they used to have reflectors out there, and in recent years when it was flowing in the park, they had barricades, and it was, you know, you could kind of find your way, but in those days it was pitch dark. So he went out with I think it was his brother, and they had one flashlight between them. So they got out there. They didn't plan it very well. And then the battery went dead on the way back, you know, and they're like, boy, you know, this isn't safe. They kept going about, we're going to fall into a hole, so, you know, we should just spend the night. Let's be safe. Lay down. They were freezing. They had a jacket between them. So they spent the night there, and then they woke up in the morning as the sun was coming up. They woke up and they could see their car. So they were about 100 feet from their car.
That's like some of the plans that I made. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I guess they were safe. I mean, they didn't know. They really didn't know where they were.
Oh yeah, we would go out there, and I remember going out with Thad Calciolari and his daughter Bailey when she was just a little kiki, and with a couple of the kids. And the adults wanted to hike to one area where they'd be a little bit closer to lava, and I was back with the kids and stuff. And we were standing there, and just as we're standing there looking down, all of a sudden a little push came out of lava, you know, like 4 feet away from us. And everybody, you know, the kids are all going, oh, wow, wow, Uncle Joe, that's great. And I went, man, that's incredible. Let's move back.
Yeah.
Let's move back just a little bit.
Yeah, I have a ranger friend that was, this was a couple years ago, and there was some people out on one of the shelves, one of those shelf collapses, people that died from that, I think in the early phases of the eruption. And he was out there, and he heard a big boom, and he think, this ain't good. So there was some folks out there, and he had to run out and tell them, you guys need to get out of here because something's happening. And it was virtually minutes before he got off that shelf with the visitors that the thing collapsed. So they were very lucky. You didn't hear about it because nobody died or got hurt, but
yeah,
it's actually very serious.
And then, you know, back in the day, did you do volcano marathon or the 10 miles?
I never did the marathon. I did the 10 miler a couple times. Yeah, into the crater. That was a great race. Yeah.
Yeah, the 10 miler was better than the 5 miler because the 5 miler you went down, went across, and then went up that nasty hill all the way back up. And the
10 miler did that too. It went around the crater, and then you had to climb back up the hill back to the volcano house in KMC. That was a tough one. That was a tough race.
Yeah, I remember the last year that they ran it, I was in the 10 miler, and it was probably the best course because they wouldn't let us down into the caldera. So we were basically in rainforest all the time. So it was like, there's shade. It was great, you know?
Yeah, I think I did it one of the last years. They actually had it down in the crater before they moved it. I think they moved it to the village, right? I don't think I've ever done it when it's in the village. Yeah.
Well, what's happened is they moved it to the village, and then they dropped it. God, was it last year? 2 years ago, where the lady who owned it, Sharon, she sold that volcano and Kona Marathon to Brent Inneman, who lives up here in Waimea. And Brent decided that he wasn't going to continue volcano. But friends of ours, Keely and Adam McKee, they took over kind of putting on a race in volcano, and they do it as the Ohia half marathon. And the first
Right.
year they did it was last year, which I remember it only because it was on my birthday, end of July and stuff. And it was great. I mean, you're in the village, but you're still out on Wright Road and stuff, and it still is an excellent race. And the advantage, of course, for us here in Hawaii, where it seems to be always warm, is it's at altitude, so it's like 4,000
Yeah.
feet, so it's a little bit cooler in the summertime there.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
haven't been over to that side for a race, last couple of years. I've been doing mostly Kona stuff on this side, occasionally Waimea, but kind of staying close to home. It
well,
seems to be more so now.
yeah. Well, if I remember correctly now, it seems like in 2013 you weren't around the island doing a race. You were actually doing a race on the mainland.
Yep. Yep. Not a happy race.
Well, that was. How did you qualify for Boston? At what race? At Honolulu?
Um, I qualified at Honolulu, and I had over several years, just never really had the opportunity to go. So, I thought 2013, this is the year, and kind of had an interesting experience. It was tragic. It definitely was something to remember, and I wasn't close, but I didn't see any of what was going on. But we have time for the story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I planned to go, and then a friend of mine who I met on the beach at the park, who very, very connected in Boston. He actually knows the race director, Dave McGilvery, and didn't know this at the time, but he invited me to stay at his house. I said, my wife were coming. He's like, oh, you got to stay with us. So I said, okay. So
Oops.
he says, well, I'm going to contact my friend Dave. You're coming from Hawaii, and maybe you can, are we still live here, Joe? Okay.
Oh, yeah, we froze up a little bit there. Yeah.
Okay. He says, well, maybe Dave can do something special for you. And I said, well, he's got the Boston Marathon organized. I don't expect it. But anyway, before that, I got this email to check in when I got my number. And when I got there, my number said VIP on it. I went, what is this? So I was like, yeah. So when I show up on that day, they had instructions to go to this special tent. And they had a tour bus for us, and these weren't runners. It was a promotional thing, so it was people running, but it wasn't like the winners or anything. But anyway, so we had police escort to the start of the. Yeah, we did. It was amazing. And then everybody sitting outside freezing. They had us. We could go in the one of the. It was it's at a school, so they'd been going in a room that was heated, and it was like VIP treatment. So. And I was having a blast, not knowing what was going to happen later in the day. So when I finished, they had a massage tent, they had stuff for everybody. And my wife wasn't there. She took a train in from where we were staying. And this area was all cordoned off. You had to have a VIP on your number and everything, so nobody could get in there. Somehow she talked to the race director, not the volunteer director, and got into the tent with me. And I was waiting in line to get a massage, and we were talking and laughing. And then I just remember it very distinctly because we had these clown noses that I had gotten at something the day before. There was a spaghetti dinner, and they had these things at something next door. And we were laughing. We were putting the clown noses on. And then we hear the first explosion, and my wife looks at me and says, that was a bomb. And I said, how do you know that? It sounded like the starting gun, like a cannon.
Yeah.
And then, there was another one. And then everybody was kind of nervous, looking around, what's going on. And there's big screen TVs on the wall. They were showing some things. And then all of a sudden the TVs went off. And then there was a picture from the local news of a helicopter flying over saying explosions in Boston. And I could see where we are because we were in front of this old church and probably 2 blocks from the finish line, pretty close. But there was stuff, vehicles and stuff, so you couldn't really see the finish line. And then I knew something was going on. So continued on, and it was probably 15, 20 minutes later. I was, right there to get a massage, and we're both watching TV, worst massage I ever had because we were both kind of looking at what's going on. All of a sudden, somebody comes in and says, I need you guys to clear out of here. It's going to be a triage tent. And so we had picked up chairs, and And then we just went out with the crowds, and we saw vehicles coming in, police vehicles and ambulance, and not even knowing what happened. Didn't really know anything until I think I got a hold of my cousin. I mean, the phones weren't working, and then they said there was an explosion and some people are hurt. So pretty traumatic, and but I wasn't right there, but it was still, people were asking me how was my race, and I just couldn't answer for a long time. And that it was my heart goes out to those people that were there and they got hurt and injured, and thinking, well, wow, I was there. And I finished an hour or so beforehand, but I had planned on, not knowing where my wife was, I had planned to go back to the finish line. And the good thing is you really couldn't. They had barricades up. They wouldn't let you go back. So luckily I wasn't in the area. I was in the tent, but that was quite some experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine, do you still, I mean, how long, you never get over something like that, but do you still have, like, at finish lines and stuff, you get nervous or anything?
No, not so much. That was it, because I didn't see it, besides what was on TV, didn't really have that trauma, but it was a significant experience, being that close to something, and as part of something in our history. It was really, really a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of weird to think about that. That was 2013. I mean, that was 7 years ago.
Yep.
A long time ago. And you wrote a good article. Thank you for passing that on to me and stuff. Can you maybe tell us where the article is and stuff?
Yeah, it's in the National Association of Interpretation, so it's in my field. So I thought I would do an article talking about how important messaging is, and how we heal from some of these traumatic events by telling a story, to create that healing. So that was kind of the topic in there. And I sent an email to the editor of the magazine, and I had a real quick deadline. My mom is a editor, and she helped me kind of polish it up, and I got it in, and I think it came out pretty good. It's just pretty much from my experience of what happened, but how that we must, that messaging is important, how we talk to ourselves, and whatever experience it is, how you can learn from it and move on.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that's part of ultra running and long running, I think, is having the venue to be able to express how you feel. I mean, we go through things as a person who does long runs myself. There's things that happen at night in a run that you really need to talk to people about, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think running, and this, Joe, is just so therapeutic with anything you're going through. I mean, it's hard to really have a bad thought when you're out there. You can be in pain, but you can just clear whatever's going through. It's, you get these amazing ideas and inspirations, and I think I'm lucky to be healthy all my life, but I can experience in a small way, and I don't mean to devalue other people's sickness. I never could experience that, but I can understand it. When you're at mile 25, the pain you're feeling is it's pretty hard. I mean, it's not like some things, but you're certainly going to recover from it. After 26, you're gonna recover, and you're gonna get, but you can experience that, and it's a choice. A lot of people don't have that choice. So, and it's, the other side of it is it makes you healthy. Maybe not marathons. Everybody doesn't have to do marathons or ultra marathons, but certainly physical activity is something that can really improve your health and your lifestyle.
Yeah. What's the longest race that you've done?
I'm not an ultra marathoner. I'm a marathoner. So that's kind of my longest in running, but I have done 2 Ironmans. And since I moved to Kona, I've really picked that up, doing halves and Olympic distance. And I've kind of enjoyed that, being a runner, trying to figure out how to swim, and, the cycling, that was a struggle. Even I grew up here, I really wasn't a swimmer, but luckily I can hold my own in it. I'm not great, but I'm not terrible either. So I've enjoyed two other sports, and as I get older, certainly don't run. And they say it's hard to run every day. I run 3 or 4 days a week at tops, and I try to cycle and swim and do other things. It's just too hard on the body.
What years did you do Ironman?
Ironman?
Yeah.
2013, which was a pretty big year for me, because that was Boston too.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then 2016. And that was right after my dad died. And that was that race inspired me. The training definitely was, he died in May. So it was like my training was all for him, and I could really have a healthy outlet to put into the race. So that was a very, very significant one for me too. And I just finished them. I certainly am not at running. I compete, I go all out, but Ironmans, I was out there to finish the race and just completely enjoyed myself. That was the icing on the cake. The training was just fantastic. And then being able to be out there in the Kona community and just seeing people, that was so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's special, whatever side of the race that you're on, is being able as a volunteer to see people in the race, and being in the race and seeing people who are volunteering.
Yep.
That's very special. And
yes,
of course, things are a little bit on hold right now. This year's Ironman, the World Championship, has been delayed until February, same weekend as the Super Bowl. if we have the Super Bowl, if indeed there is a Super Bowl.
It's our Super Bowl. It's distance athlete Super Bowl. So yeah, we just have to record it right when we're done with the Ironman. Yeah.
Well, most of us are usually Super Bowl. Shout out to Dana, who used to do that run from Kua Bay into Kona. It was a half marathon every Super Bowl Sunday. So that's how we would start our Super Bowls anyway.
Right. Yeah.
What do you use for nutrition and stuff, being a vegan athlete and being out there? Do you use anything for training specifically?
I do gels and those kinds of things just because they're easy. But I'm kind of a big advocate of not doing anything different before a race, or, everybody's asking, what are you going to eat the night before? I said, well, what I always eat. I mean, and my diet's pretty simple. It's vegan, it's vegetables, starch, soy products. Don't change things up too much. I'd be doing more calories if I'm doing a marathon or a Ironman. No real secrets. I think it's just steady as you go. And I've always been kind of, take care of my body and don't do extremes, at least in the last maybe 10 years. Maybe when I was younger, I didn't. But I think that's my message, is if you're going to be an athlete, a runner, whatever it is you're going to do, whatever sport, do it for the long haul. I mean, I've been very lucky to have 40 years, and you too, Joe. I know you've been doing this a while. 40 years of being healthy and, the normal things, but just think about it. Think about it for the next, decades. Don't think about it like I got to do that next race and whatever that secret, gel pack is for that. I mean, they didn't have those when I was growing up, and I still have a hard time with like the GPS watches and stuff. I'm just not there. I feel old school, I mean, the digital watch is a huge thing, and they didn't have those gel packs. It was, bananas. So I'm still there, and I'm not the new tech is a little bit, and I like to experiment and try it, but I do love running without a watch, and I've been doing that a lot lately, especially my runs from home now. Go up above my house and nobody's out there, and I get to see pigs, and there's a ranch up here, and Joe, being out in Waimea, it's just the whole thing about running is so pure, and the racing is fun and you get to challenge yourself, but just the fact of being out there in nature and enjoying it, it's been very wonderful during this time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen more wildlife where I run and stuff. I've seen plenty of people out walking their dogs, which is great that people are living what I consider a more healthy lifestyle by staying active.
Yep.
And I always tell people, stay active, but stay responsible, and just get out there and enjoy. One of our lucky things is that we can get vitamin D by just going out the door.
Yep.
Which I was surprised when I interviewed Laura Ankrum a couple weeks ago and stuff, and she said there is indeed a vitamin D deficiency on the island, and she was kind of tying it into probably sunscreen. And this would be an opportunity if you want to promote, and certainly I would promote reef safe sunscreen, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I just saw some article today. They're at Kahaluu Bay. They're finding that with people not being in the water, it's really improved the area because nobody's been in. So we're seeing all kinds of stuff like that with animals and the reefs and the clear water and the lack of pollution. So that's silver lining right now for sure.
Oh, and plenty more of these out there probably too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was. I heard there was a shark out in Kailua Bay today. Last 2 days there was a tiger. Some people saw. Yeah.
Well,
So
and it's kind of funny because I mean I know you've done Lava Man, a lot of times and stuff. And my attitude when going out in the water, and I am indeed a worse swimmer than you. I know this for a fact. I just look around and I go, I don't know, all these other people are doing it, so what the heck?
yeah, yeah. I don't worry about it in those big races. I don't think a shark is going to charge, 1,000 people out in the water. They wouldn't be a smart shark.
No, 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 not at all. What kind of shoes do you run in right now?
I would say the last 20 years it's been Asics. That's just what fits me and that's what I go by. I know there's different brands out there, but like I said, I just feel old school. I do what works, and I'm don't want to change what works. So
No, absolutely. I was surprised when I talked to Billy Barnett, our buddy, like a month ago or so. His training is just nuts because he basically says, well, I don't take water out if I'm just going to run under 4 hours. If I'm going to run over 4 hours, I'll take water.
Wow, 4 hours, huh? That's hard. Yeah.
Well, and
I could see a half hour, an hour, but longer than that, I think I would definitely have some water stashed somewhere.
But especially at the speed that you guys run, because for me, 4 hours is only a couple miles.
Yeah.
4 hours for you guys is a long way.
Well, maybe it's because Billy was, running in Mexico in the dry valleys. Maybe he's got a tolerance to hydration, needing to hydrate all the time. I don't know.
Yeah. So do you have any races that you were already signed up for? I think you mentioned the one Ironman you might have been doing, or
I was going to do a half Ironman in Oceanside. I have some relatives I was going to go visit. Obviously, that didn't happen. It's been postponed to October 24th, but we'll see. That's the only thing on the schedule, really. So I'm just hanging out, and like everybody else, just waiting to see what's going to happen, and just enjoying my solo runs. And I've been back running around with Ben Halpern the other day, and we're trying to get together more to do runs. So just get back slowly. I've really even been not been doing as much, being stay at home. I'm just in maintenance mode, just waiting for the next thing. So
are you furloughed now, or what's up? I can't remember.
No, we're all working. Luckily, we're able to telework, so that's been pretty good. Kind of strange as, park ranger at home, but it's worked out. And there's things behind the scenes people don't know that we have to do. Like I do the website, I do social media. That's probably been 80% of my job right now. So, and then we're planning for reopening and, all the normal things that goes on with being the government with trains. And I'm just amazing how well that everyone has responded. So it's, I'm on national phone calls almost every day with the media team, and I think they've done a really good job to switch over. We have everybody has, but I'm just very impressed, and I think it's the new norm. So we're going back, and we'll be out in the park, but we're going to be teleworking as part of the schedule now. So instead of being in the office, we're going to be at home, and certainly in the immediate future, we're not going to be opening everything up. It's going to be, they're using the term increased opportunities. So the trails will be open first, and then it's going to still be a while before the visitor centers open. We're getting some guidance this week on how that's going to happen. You may have seen on the news, some of the big parks are opening up and stuff, and people are out there, and everybody's, stir crazy. So parks are getting slammed. I don't know so much in Hawaii here because we don't have the visitors yet, but the big parks are really getting a huge, and I'm just kind of worried about those guys if they're going to be able to keep up, because people are just going crazy getting outside right now.
Yeah, I did notice. I saw yesterday, I think it was posted. I forget who it was posted by, but basically their Waipio Valley's closed for the weekend.
Yeah. That's smart, because I think everybody would be there.
Well, that's part of, like where I run, normally I could run 7 days a week if I wanted to. It wouldn't matter which day it is. But Saturdays have been particularly crowded, which is sometimes part of my running experience. I like that. There's people to see, there's dogs to pet and everything. But a lot of times it's like, no, get off of my lawn. I'm old. I'm sorry. Go away. I've never seen you up on this road, but that's an aloha attitude to have. It's great that people are getting everything. And I know there was some confusion about the beaches because, what was it, Tuesday? They were supposed to open Tuesday, but there was miscommunication with Harry, and it was actually going to be Wednesday. And now it looks like they've finally gotten things straightened out. So hopefully people can actually go, still social distance, it's a bad term, physical distance themselves, and lay out on the beach and get some sun and go into the water if you want to.
Right. I'm sure you're going to be laying out on the beach now, Joe, right? That's your thing, right?
I'm one man boy,
Yeah.
I ran in the Luna sandals today just to make sure, I didn't have the total cowboy tan that a lot of people have up here.
Well, that's acceptable, long hair, whatever, anything goes now after this time.
Yeah, it is funny though, because it sounds like you haven't been around too many people as far as, going out and running, but, and I don't see it at running, but like going to Costco and stuff gets a little strange because I'm still talking to people that I know and stuff, but they're harder to recognize now.
Right. And there's this fear factor, like, I got to get out of here, and you almost don't want to run into people, and but you don't want to be rude either, especially if you know somebody and you're physically distanced, and it's a strange time right now.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that the high schools are going to they're going to have, they can't call them parades, but I guess they're going to have processions this week where the graduates are going to be able to go out, in cars and stuff and be honored as they should be. I was lucky enough to run into an HPA graduate up on where I run, and I asked him if I could take a photo and stuff of him. His parents were there and stuff, and it was really, really, I cried afterwards because it was really special to see him out there and to see his family and how proud they were of him.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing, seeing everybody put up posters and banners on their houses, and really recognizing the graduates. And they're getting a bum year this year, but I think the people are making the best of it, and they're being creative for sure. So that's good to see.
Have you had a desire to, I don't know if you haven't gone back to Boston and done Boston again?
I've been wanting to go. It didn't work out. Every year I was going to do it, and I got to qualify again, and I don't know if I'm getting up there in years. Maybe it's going to get easier. Who knows? It's that the level you slow down, but you're getting older, but then there are some fast. So I don't know. We'll see. It's not like on the bucket list, but I would like to go back. It was quite an experience. I'd like to go back under better circumstances. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm still, somehow in my head, I can't get it together about Honolulu Marathon either. I just don't know if that's going to happen, to be honest.
Yeah, that's one I do every year. I've got my 15th in a row this year, if it's on. So I want to keep going with Honolulu for sure. I just always love that race. It's kind of my home race, and that's where I got my start. That's my first race and my most memorable race. So we'll see. We'll see what happens this year. It's far enough out. It might be okay, but who knows? Who knows at this point? We'll see what happens.
Have you had any desire to do any of the virtual races out there?
I did when I was supposed to do the one I mentioned in California in April, the 70.3. I did that one virtually. I actually signed up on Ironman.com, but I don't have a GPS watch, so it wasn't counted. But it was a virtual race. I didn't get the T-shirt or whatever they were offering, but I didn't do the swim. But I did the half Ironman on that day, and that felt good. It felt good to do that.
Good. Congratulations. Yeah, I was thinking, I know this weekend Sunday was supposed to be the trash can triathlon, Team Mango race and stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
still debating whether or not to do it up here in Waimea. You know, I would run a mile for the swim and then
Right.
do the bike ride, and then I pick up trash anyway, you know, when I'm running and
Right.
stuff. But I
Right. I
haven't.
know the last P-Man was they had people go down at different times, and yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's still great to see that people were still supporting, you know, our little community races, because I think that's important. You know, I think
Yeah.
there's a couple of things too. Nutritionally, it's been great to see people support the local farms. Have you been getting any of your produce from a local farm?
Yeah, we have a local farm. We've been doing this for years. We get a share every other week, so that's been good. Even donated some little extra money to them because I know they're going to have a hard time. Hopefully, things have picked up. You know, now people being at home, and then I got my garden going right afterwards, and I've got all kinds of greens coming out. So I'm trying to grow more at home.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's. I mean, I hope it continues on. I know I've been
Yep.
getting fresh produce from a farm up where I run and stuff too, and it's been great to spend $15 and get a whole big bag of
Yeah,
fresh stuff.
yeah, yeah. It's nice. Feels good.
So, is there anything that you'd like, any kind of message that you want to send out to people? If you want to have, if I don't know if you want to have people contact you or how they can get a hold of you, but is there anything you want to maybe say
Um,
to people right now?
Just a real general message, I guess. I mean, I'm just thankful for our community here and like what you're doing, Joe, during this time. You know, it's really important to keep in touch with each other, even if it's just in front of a computer. Can't talk right now. It's been a long interview. Video screen. Let's say video screen. That's super important. You know, I know a lot of people's mental health might be suffering right now, but you got to maintain that contact. I do a lot of Zoom calls. And I think things are changing. We can be able to get out there a little bit more, see people. But I just think that's so important. And, you know, it's just like there's so many things you can do to be healthy. And you got to do them all, unfortunately. You got to eat right, you got to exercise, and you got to maintain the social, you know, dynamic. We're humans, we need social contact. And don't isolate yourself, and, you know, do whatever you can to make yourself happy. It's hard times, and if you don't have a job or something, it's going to be even harder. So my heart goes out to those people, and hopefully there's, you know, the good things are going to come out, and it's going to be an adjustment, but we're going to get through this time.
So thank you, John. Thank you for maintaining social contact with me.
Yes, exactly. I'd like to give you a high five, Joe, but we can do a fist bump. There you go. Yeah.
Mahalo to Jon Jokiel for his time today. John's a busy guy. He's got a lot going on. And thanks, I mean, that he was able to share part of his story. Many things that I had no idea that he was doing or had done in the past and stuff. So it was great to be able to talk story with John for a while here today. And we'll be posting a charity that you can donate to if you'd like the podcast here, and hopefully you can donate to even if you didn't like the podcast. So thanks again, John, for being a hero for a lot of people and being somebody who is a very fast runner. He's really fast. Trust me, folks. So again, mahalo for listening or viewing. Aloha.